I'm sorry it was too soft. I got in trouble last month because it was too loud. Somebody's too old and it was too loud. But trust me, I'm cranking it up next. We're not having a meeting next month in December. No, 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 because we're taking December off. We're going to come back in January to meet you. But right now, we have networking. And one of the things we want to tell you right now is that we are really, really lucky that Robert Royer with Building Brands Marketing has donated not one, not two, not three, not four, but five $10 certificates or gift cards to go to Ventura's Tamales. I want to win all five of them, actually, because I love me some tamales. These are voted the best tamales in the universe. That's right. People from Jupiter, Galaxy, even Mars come to Ventura's Tamales to get their tamales on. Thank you, Robert Royer. He is awesome. Thank you for donating that. He's one of our great sponsors. So thank you, Robert Royer with Building Brands Marketing. The other thing we need to think about is we're glad you're here. We're going to put up there a second that don't forget to log in with your Jag Sync so we can tell if you're a student, we can tell who you are, where you are, what you are, because we want you to participate today. And the Jag Sync is pretty simple. You saw the QR code. We can keep doing that. We'll have questions throughout the day. And as we're going out throughout this thing, we want you to think about your questions you have that you might want to ask to help you understand what's going on. Now, let's see. Oh, another housekeeping.
I just want things to be normal. I'm trying. I just want things to be normal.
It will never be normal, sir. This is the new normal.
The kind of effort I give, when other people give such effort.
So thank you. Thank you so much for that. Things are not normal because I'm in the house. If I'm here, ain't nothing normal. So today we have networking. We've talked about how to brand yourself. We've talked about intentional listening. Today we have the one, the only Diane Claim. Diane Claim? Nah, we're not going to talk about her yet because we got to do another couple of things. We want to thank the School of Business. You're important, Diane. We see you over there in the corner. We love you. But here's what we need to do. We need to thank Dean Caldwell, the School of Business Administration, and especially Rosie McCusker that provides the support we need for this. And you know what? I'm done here. I've done all I can. I've caused all I can. What we have is we have two, the thing is I can talk all day. But what I want you to understand is that we have let's go. That's right. She said, move on, Aaron. Thank you, Rosie, for keeping me on track. We have Crystal Lindsay. Crystal Lindsay wrote a great book that says, well, what did it say, Crystal? There you go. Find it on Amazon. And if you mention my name, get 0% off. But if you're an Amazon Prime member, she will deliver it to your house tomorrow. It'll even have her signature. That's how awesome that is. We also have Mr. Motal. He's going to be a graduate pretty soon at UHB, and these two are going to help you get ready for a breakthrough. So, hey, Kyle, Crystal, take this away.
Absolutely. So did you know networking is responsible for filling as many as 85% of all jobs?
What? 85%? I'm telling you, we've got some people looking for jobs who are about to graduate, so you better listen up. But I'm telling you, we got some business folks on the line too. And did you know that we got 80% of professionals say they believe that they have their career success and because of professional networking. So it doesn't matter if you're a UHB student or a business professional, networking is going to help you take your life to the next level.
Absolutely, Crystal. I mean, the stats are there. Nobody can get there by themselves. And courage, it's non-existent without the support. Then you need that support system to help you along the way. So guys, step out of your comfort zone and enjoy being uncomfortable because networking is absolutely the place to be.
Wait, are we asking people to be uncomfortable? There's some people on the line right now who are a little anxious about networking. The thought of walking up to introduce themselves and start a conversation with someone they don't know is actually terrifying. So if that's you, you're in the right place.
Absolutely. So we're going to bring it to y'all because we have a great person who's going to be out here and she's going to talk about some awesome networking skills. But who's ready for the breakthrough? I mean, let's bring it to them, Crystal.
I'm saying what we got to do is first deliver and discover the baseline. See, you can't actually improve your life until you know where you already are. See, one of the things that Diane Kleem is going to share with you today is her journey and going into college and how she used networking to take her career to the next level, how she became the American Businesswoman of the Year, how she's able to do all this, but she wasn't able to do it until she took her first step. So what I want you to do is take action, and taking action is easy when you know what to do. So we're not only going to give you the tools on what to do, we're also going to give you your baseline. So we've got a few questions here to walk you through. Where are you at right now so that you can discover the real power of networking for your career?
So we're going to go through a rating system, and I want y'all to rate yourselves 1 through 5 here. And we want to know if you, 1 being strongly disagree with the first question, strongly agree is 5, or neutral at 3. And so the first question here is going to go, I feel confident in my professional networking abilities.
That's right. I want you to just take a moment and on 1 to 5, write it down. Get your pen and paper. You didn't come here without pen and paper, right? You didn't want some television. You wanted a breakthrough. That's why you're here. Get your pen and paper. We're taking action. And if you don't got pen and paper, get your smartphone and open up the notepad on your phone. But write it down 1 to 5. 1, I strongly disagree. 3, I'm neutral. I couldn't tell you either way. And 5, you strongly agree that you feel confident in your professional networking abilities as you sit there right now. Write it down. What's question number 2?
Yes, absolutely. So the second question here we're going to ask is, I am comfortable creating a simple introduction that explains me, i.e. the elevator pitch.
This is where most people fall flat, right? I mean, Diane, even seasoned professionals who've been doing networking for years may struggle with this one, right? Do you know the value you bring to the table? Can you walk up and succinctly just say who you are and what you do? Or do you ramble? Or do you stumble? Or do you have 3, 4, 5 things you say you do? Are you clear, crystal clear on the value you bring? Rate it 1 to 5.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Be honest with yourself because this will help you understand your position in networking and identify the best area for you to start and explore your journey.
That's right. We're going to question number 3. Take us there.
So the third question here is, I am able to make a smooth and natural one-on-one intro. How comfortable are you by walking up to a stranger and starting a conversation with them? Go ahead, rate yourself on that one.
That's right. You may be sitting here thinking, look, I could walk up and shake hands with the president. Or maybe you're thinking, the last thing I want to do is walk up to somebody I don't know. So rate it out. Remember, 1, strongly disagree. 5, strongly agree. So your ability to walk up somebody you don't know and just make it smooth and natural, 1 to 5. And what's our last of the 4 questions to create a baseline, Kyle?
Here we go. Absolutely. I am able to overcome nervousness about meeting new people.
I'm just going to take a big, deep breath on that one because seriously, one of the things you may not know about me is I went to 23 different schools. And so I had to be the new kid a lot. And I was 6 feet tall. So you can imagine I stuck out when I was 12 years old, 6 feet tall. I could shake the hands of anybody and walk up. And even me, right before I say something to somebody, I get little nervous flutters, right? So I have to say that there is always an area for opportunity. Even if you feel confident, be honest with yourself right now. What's your overcome that nervousness, knowing everybody has a little nervousness?
Absolutely. This is where you sharpen your strengths and leverage them to propel you forward and build champions to help you. Find that passion that drives you and just really just moves you forward because this is absolutely what you need.
Man, I'm telling you, this is so good. Hopefully you took the time to write down your baseline because Diane's going to share some key ways that she used networking to take her career to the next level as a UHV grad. And at the end of this, we're going to bring it back and tell you what your scores mean. But first, I want to hear what Diane has to say. There is always an area for opportunity, but this woman has it in spades. We are so happy to have her on the stage. But I want to make sure you know you can chat in your questions. So go ahead and put your questions in the chat throughout the process. Kyle and I are going to bring Diane back on the screen at the end if there's any questions, and we are going to answer your exact questions. I will say also, if you are not a presenter at this point, we do ask you turn your camera off. Kyle and I are going to turn ours off as well for the official recording. So thank y'all so much. And with that, who are we giving the mic back to, Kyle?
Dr. D, bring it home. Let's see her, Diane.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. See y'all soon.
My camera. Ah, I had my hand up. I was so excited. It wouldn't even work. That's how excited I am. It's probably still not even working. It's driving me crazy. Diane, y'all can't see me. Can anybody see me? Can I see me?
Yes,
No.
sir. Yes,
Where
sir.
am I? I have done lost my mind. Here's the deal. We are so excited. Diane has some great ideas. But before we get Diane, we're going to have Mr. Mark Martinez. I think I like Mr. Mark Martinez because he did the Riverside Food Truck Festival. I love me a good food truck. I love me a bad food truck. And what's even better is that Mark is a UHV accounting. He has his master's and his BBA from UHV. He does all sorts of things. And then the other person we're going to have in here with him is going to be Stephanie Dayo. I love to say that. It makes me think of the creative writing she does. She's about to graduate and get out of here and start her career. She's the student director of the Office of Career Services. That's right, Stephanie Dayo. And I am Dr. D. And you know what? Before I turn it over to them, we need to introduce our guest. Our guest today is going to be Miss Diane. Where's Domino's at? Domino's? We ain't got no Domino's. The nice thing about Diane Claim is that she started off, and she's going to tell your story. She graduated from here. She went to UHV, got her BBA in accounting. She became a CPA. She went to law school. She formed her own law firm. That's not even enough. She's been active in the community. She's been in the Aggie Mothers Club. She does the Rotary. She does Crime Stoppers. That's a good one to have. That's a great one to have a lawyer on. Board of directors. For all her efforts, all her outreach efforts, in 2015, she was recognized as the Southwest Border Region Small Business Person of the Year. That didn't stop Diane. No. She kept on keeping on. And y'all, this is probably one of the most amazing things about Diane. In 2020, the year that has brought us so much bleh, we have a bright star right here in Victoria, Texas. That's right. Diane Claim is the American Businesswomen's Association, not the Victoria, not even Victoria County, not even Texas, the American Businesswoman of the Year. That's right. You don't get that by sitting there doing nothing. Diane, we are so excited to have you today. So Mark, Stephanie, take it away and let's hear about Diane's journey and all sorts of fun.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Deason. Isn't Dr. Deason great, everyone? Lots of energy, lots of excitement. I definitely cannot top that. But thank you very much, Dr. D, for the great introductions. And good afternoon, Diane. And to everyone in attendance with us today. We have a great program today for everyone, and I'm very honored to serve as a co-host today along with Stephanie. It's been great to be able to meet with her and work with her. And also, little disclaimer, Diane and I have had a working relationship for, I guess, a couple of years now, right, Diane? I think
it's been quite a while.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. She's done some leadership trainings and stuff like that with us in our department for the Small Business Development Center. Here at
I was going
UHV.
to ask, that's attorney client privilege. She can't talk about that, Mark. Don't make her talk about it.
No.
She's a professional. She's a professional, Mark.
She is a professional. So, one of the things that I'm sure that everybody is excited. I'm sure everybody is just, fighting that, biting at the lip to hear from Miss Diane, Ms. Diane Clean. So let's go ahead and get started. Diane, again, we've known each other for quite some time and worked together professionally. So, but what I want to talk about first is I'd really like to talk a little bit about your background, and especially as a first-generation college student. What was the driving force that made you decide that college was for you, and how did that change your life?
Thanks, Mark. Growing up in my family, they're very blue-collar folks. So pretty much everybody in my immediate family, my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, nobody ever went to college. Pretty much everybody did what people do. You work really hard, you pay your bills, and you raise some kids, and you hope they turn out okay. But you don't talk really about college, and there's not money put aside for college. And even if you do pretty well, it doesn't change things necessarily. So, lucky for me, when I did finish high school, I received a few scholarships, which opened that door for me to go to college, and did some things along the way that may have been the hard way to do things. Did about a year and a half of college, got married. A few years later, had a baby. A few years later, had another baby, and said, you know what, I think I need to go back now. So I took a 5-year hiatus at one point. But the driving force, I guess, was these two little humans I brought into the world and said, I want to do things different than my folks. I don't want to work just to pay bills. I want my children to be able to travel. I want my children to go to college. Mm-hmm. So that was my driving force that kind of sent me back to finish. Okay. And I finished at Victoria College and UHV. And it was not easy because, when you're first generation to do anything, you have no frame of reference.
Right.
Who do you ask? Who do you find out about scholarships? How do you find out about financial aid? It's kind of takes the village, so to speak, to figure out how do I make my bundle of sticks stronger.
Yeah.
No,
and Miss Diane.
I was just going to say, I totally understand that, Diane, being a first generation college student myself. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. Go ahead, Stephanie. Sorry about that.
Well, I wanted to ask, not knowing and being a first generation student, what resources did you use? What kind of guided you along the way?
I figured out pretty quickly I needed to get to know certain people, get in touch with my professors to say, I don't understand something, or the financial aid folks that were available. You got to remember, this is way back before the technology we have today.
Right.
There was a course catalog, and if you were lucky enough to get one, you were lucky, because everything was kind of in pamphlet and forms, or you found people. And lucky
Right.
for me, that was probably, without me knowing it, where my networking started, was figuring out the right people.
Absolutely. I do remember vaguely from our conversation we've had before, a donut story. If you'd like to share that with.
Financial aid had all these students, so you used to have to make appointments. And I think they were always like any small group of people in an organization where it's a small group handling the many, a lack of appointments. And if you got one, you were lucky. And if you got 15 minutes, you were lucky. So I one day decided, and this was not my first time to go visit financial aid and figure out these people are overloaded. So I took a box of donuts, said, hey, I brought these for you guys this morning. And it kind of broke the ice of, hey, here's somebody who did something different for us this morning.
Absolutely.
So later, and I have more donut stories, but that's the beginning of it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, I have another question for you, Diane. Growing up, were you always very outgoing, or were you shy growing up? What was your personality like during that time?
I don't think I was ever shy, but I probably had a lot of insecurities. It was, my family was the country kids. All our clothes were secondhand, for example. You didn't get the new shoes every year. You couldn't tell stories about the cool places your family went for summer vacation. So I think there was a lot of insecurity when you had other students talk about things that you know nothing about.
Mm-hmm. No,
So,
I know the exact feeling, growing up the same way, and we could sit down and have a lot of conversations about that, and we would learn that we're so much alike, from the stories that you're talking about growing up. And having gone through some leadership training, I learned from one of the leadership trainings from the person that was instructing it. He called it, the individual that was teaching it, he called it sit a spell. And sit a spell was sitting down with someone and learning about them and finding the commonalities between you and that individual, no matter what your ethnicity or background or anything was. So,
exactly.
so that's a very important point. Stephanie?
Well, I just wanted to talk about, you mentioned taking a hiatus and coming back, and we've talked before about there being differences in ages too with your classmates, and there being a lot of men in the career that you chose to take. Did you ever have any doubts about the career that you chose, and if you did, what kept you going? I know that you mentioned your kids were a driving force.
I think sometimes I don't think it was intentional, but I think I did things sometimes a hard way, and for example, my first job that I got, I was just glad to get a job because, you hear of people that finish college and don't find a job. So I felt like by that point in my life, I had some tenacity. So for example, that first job I got, it was probably because I kept calling them saying, have you filled the position? Can I come in for a second interview? Would you guys like to talk to me again? And they finally hired me. I think I probably called them no less than half a dozen times to get that offer. And when I got there, I found out, well, this is a business I know nothing about. I'm working with 90% male here. I was the first female supervisor in a company that had been around 50 years.
Wow.
Wow.
So, I had to figure out pretty quickly, who do I need to get to know to do my job and to get people to educate me? So that's
Absolutely.
kind of, again, internal networking within people I worked with. But again, it's building relationships. And it was probably my first networking, and they propelled me in the company by doing that. And lucky for me, or unlucky, I don't know which, when I went in, I'd followed someone who had done probably a terrible job for about a year. So there was a real mess to untangle. And for me, again, the tenacity kind of stuck in of, okay, I've got to get this done. How am I going to get this done? And a lot of it was building relationships with people who work there, who I had to get to give me info.
Yeah, and it sounds honestly like you building those relationships was you starting to network and networking before you even knew you were doing it.
That's exactly right. I think that's a true statement.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
I think you gonna say something, Dr. Deason?
I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm like, I love this whole network thing. I love me some donuts. It's like, and I like what you're saying. It's like you have a really good story, but what happened? What was next after college?
Well, that first job, again, in the 90% male environment, I kind of inherited a mess of things. And what I had to do, what they hired me for, is the job probably not many people want. I was called the credit manager. So if you can guess what that job is, it means collecting money. So part of my mess was to figure out why people weren't paying. And so I had to get into processes. Okay, how does the process with this company work? How does this one work? Who do I need to go find to help me? And here again, I had one of the major plants here in the area had lots of stuff going on, lots of major construction. So found out their process. Okay, they need a purchase order, and if it doesn't match exactly, the invoice never gets paid. Who do I go to? So the purchasing guy at this place got to know me one-on-one. I started showing up about every other week with a box of donuts. Again, these donuts.
The donuts are key.
Yeah, said, here's my problem. Can you help me with it? And he was nice enough to say, here's what you need to do. And he sent me to the receiving department, who I had to then figure out how to get intel out of them. And at the end of the day, I think what the goal was let me find out this info so I can make your job easier. I won't be calling you about these past due invoices because we're going to get them taken care of. I'm going to get you what you need to pay them. And you're not going to hear from me again other than to say hello and bring you a box of donuts. Okay. So, internally, it's making those relationships that was part of my success in doing that. And within the company, which this company that I worked for was one of a much bigger group that owned 50 companies throughout the United States, and we were in acquisition mode of acquiring more. Part of what I did is I got attention pretty quickly by taking, you accountants will know what I'm saying when I say this, DSO, or days sales outstanding, went from about 75 days sales outstanding to my best collection month. I got it down to 28, which was unheard of. If you can hit a 45 DSO, you're really doing good things. But there was so much old stuff out there that I hit a 28 one month. And so it gathered attention up the chain. So when people were meeting the credit manager at the business, they'd already heard of me before they knew me. And I figured out pretty quickly, here's how to get in this company and move, is to get to know the right people, to know how you can help the company and help them have better financials, right? And
so Diane, I know you had a pretty extensive accounting background, and at what point in your career did you decide to jump to law and become a lawyer?
The company I worked for was having some changes. It was kind of some cultural changes. Corporate culture is very important to you, I think, as an employee. And they were having some corporate culture changes that I really did not appreciate and did not like very well. And instead of putting that on them, I said, let me put that on me. What do I need to do about it? And I said, well, I think it's time to probably look at another career. And law seemed an easy jump at that point because part of what I'd been doing for 13 years was reviewing contracts, handling some of the HR issues that came up, handling the corporate audits. I'd done some of the acquisition work. I'd worked there through Y2K. If all of you are old enough to remember that, everybody thought the world was coming to an end. Yeah. Basically, we created a new system, and my job was to break it. So wow. I'd been through a lot with this company. They taught me a lot. And so a lot of it did kind of go into law. And 3 years of my life, it was a risk. You can't work and go to law school, at least not that first year, if you're going to do it full time. I can tell you that. My daughter was already in A&M, and my son was almost finishing high school. Is now the right time? What are we going to do for money? Because by now I'm making decent money at this company. It just seemed like the right time. And I think I was probably always meant to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So this company just gave me the background, I think, to do it. And that decision came from a personal choice of not wanting to follow a corporate culture that was changing.
Okay.
So, Miss Diane, you talk a lot about making moves and what you can internally do to network, but what were you doing externally? Were you going to events or were you joining organizations? What was going on in this process?
I'd always been very involved with my kids' organizations. So, I was on I think I was the treasurer for several years when my kids were in elementary for their school. And then when my son was in football, I was in the football booster club, and my daughter went to A&M. I was the president of Victoria County Aggie Moms. So that was pretty much, and I belonged to the National Credit Managers Association that worked with my job. So those were all people that I was networking with, and that helped a lot. So it made it easier. I was beginning to get more and more confident with my networking.
Absolutely. Just like Dr. D says, connecting with others and getting involved. That's exactly what it is. So at this point, do you think that you have your definition of networking? And if so, what is it?
Here's my definition. And I will tell you how it differs from what you might look up on the internet. But to me, networking is communicating, connecting, conversing with others. And of course, if you look up the definition, it says it adds developing professional and social contacts. I look at that part of it personally as a bonus. I really think the networking is the getting to know each other. And if you do get some business out of it, if you develop a relationship where you can say, hey, let me call this person and get their take on something that they're what I consider a professional at, then that's all bonus. Absolutely. Because I don't want to feel the pressure. And that's how I've approached it. I don't want to feel the pressure of asking or expecting anything from the person I'm trying to meet. And I don't want them to feel that they should expect anything from me. And I think in doing that, it has made me successful because I've developed very deep friendships, very deep professional relationships, because there's no expectation. I have heard from numerous people who join organizations, well, I haven't seen any business out of this, so I don't want to be in it anymore.
Right.
If that was your expectation going in of why you join an organization, and that's your soul, it's going to be really hard to make that work.
And Diane, one of the things sometimes that, especially in the professional world, we get kind of, we get kind of sucked into a lot of paid organizations, having to pay to be a part of an organization, or having to, buy tickets to go to some kind of networking event, or, you serve on the board and you have to give donations to be able to serve on the board. And I've been through all that myself as well. But and I guess what I was trying to say earlier too is there's always a lot of emphasis on paid type of networking, but besides the paid type of networking, I think this also goes for students and entrepreneurs. What are, and you touched on some of those already, but what are some of the other non-paid options out there to be able to network? Like what type of things can we do to network that may not cost us a bunch of money to do,
That's a really good question. And I think that's where part of what I firmly believe, as an individual who's gotten somewhere in their career, is that we have to give back. And we don't get educated, whether it's formal or informal, to keep it all to ourselves. Mark, you and I have worked, I think I've come several times to the small business development to give free talks about forming new companies or estate planning. I've worked with Victoria College on some of that. I've offered to do free talks for a number of different organizations. Anytime certain financial advisors that I work with have asked me to speak to their clients in general terms. And again, I don't think it's because I go in there expecting, oh, I'm gonna get some business from this. I go in there hoping just to educate and share my knowledge of what I do know with people. And of course, every person, you said something earlier that you need to go into this networking with the idea that you're going to appreciate and respect other people's gifts.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there's people I know who I don't know that they fit the definition of leaders, okay? But that doesn't mean they don't have gifts that they can share with you. And certain people don't meet the definition of entrepreneur, but that doesn't mean they don't have gifts that they can share with you that make you better at what you do, and vice versa. I think no matter how much diversity and how much different someone is, that's the people you need to be drawn to, because you can learn so much more from them and them from you than people just like you.
Right.
I don't look for associates like me. I look for people who bring different skill sets than I do. So I think that's really important, and is sharing your knowledge. And if you share your knowledge, that's strictly a donative type intent. And there are organizations and people looking for that all the time.
Right. And that's when I was growing up, my father always told me it's always better to make friends and have friends than enemies. And what he was trying to tell me was that, like what you just talked about, it doesn't matter where they come from, where they are, they all have gifts. And what he was telling me is that one day you never know when you may need that individual, no matter who they are. And so I kind of live by that all the time, is that I'm always trying to make friends. I'm always, I can walk up to pretty much anybody and have a conversation. That's why my wife hates to go to HEB with me, but.
But that's important.
Well, I was just going to ask, in the spirit of spreading the knowledge, Miss Diane, what would you say are the keys to success as a small business owner based on your experience?
You have to have a passion for what you do. If you have a passion for what you do, it's not going to work every day. It's doing what you love every day. So whatever you decide to do, develop a passion for it. If you go to work hating your work every day, that's not your passion. It's just the opposite. You need to dump that and do something else. I think you've got to be willing to put in a lot of hard work. You've got to be a risk taker. If you're extremely safe, you need to find a corporate job to where that's not something you're stressing over. Because as business owners, we have to take risk. And we have to take on debt sometimes, and we have to take on new people that are unknowns. And there's just risk, and you got to be a risk taker to make it work and understand that's some of your risk. You've got to have some grit. I like that word, grit. I know that's one of Crystal's words, because I tell people, this is where I tell people in my story, when people told me or rained on my parade of, I don't think you can do that. I don't think now's the right time to try that. I think you pull out of your back pocket at that point, your Southern woman, whether you're a woman or a man, you got one in your back pocket who says, oh, hell no, y'all watch me get this done. That's what I mean by grit. You dig in and you get it done, and you have to be able to make tough decisions. I think business owners need to know when to pull the plug, when to fire employees, when to not let a rotten apple ruin the whole cart, when to fire clients. There's a variety of things to know as a business owner that you have to be comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with some of these things, it's going to be hard.
Yeah, and I definitely feel that you've embodied all of these things that you've learned, and I mean, for that reason, I would believe is why you won the 2020 American Businesswoman Award. So congratulations on that. But also, how do you feel that all of these things that you've learned and this knowledge that you're giving, how do you feel that your career has helped the people right here in Victoria?
Well, I'm willing to volunteer my time to different boards, to different educational organizations. I employ other people whose money is spent right here in Victoria, who make decent wages working with me. I feel like I educate all the lawyers who've worked in my office to become better lawyers, better legal assistants in this area if they don't stay with me. I think I've brought some attention to Victoria through the Small Business Development Award, through the 2020 American Businesswoman Award. That one was national, and you just wouldn't believe how strong all the competition, as I call them, are. I mean, it was amazing to win that. I had no expectation. It was really, really cool. I like to give back in the community. I mean, I sponsor a lot of events in town. Just because I feel like I can now as a business owner. I remember working in the corporate world, and occasionally would ask for to sponsor something that I might have passion about, and it was like, oh, that's not in our budget. It's like, come on. I believe as a business owner that all my people, and I do encourage all the people that work for me to be involved civically in something they believe in, whether it's the chamber, whether it's their local school organization, whether it's one of the communities around us serving on their chamber. I encourage that because I think civic involvement for every person is important, and for a business to support that.
Absolutely. And I think all of that does involve networking. And I really feel that you are what Bridge to Brilliance is all about. You're an entrepreneur. You're responsible for hiring people and their payroll, meaning you're giving others the opportunity to be successful in this community. You're truly an inspiration, and I've enjoyed this conversation tremendously and learning from you. But what is the best advice you can give to students?
One thing that I would say is don't be afraid. Get outside your comfort zone and have a thick skin. You will meet people who will snob you. Don't get me wrong. When you're meeting strangers, you don't know. They may be people that have a bad day. You just write them off and go to the next person. Try to be memorable. If there's something different that can differentiate you, that's okay. Know that networking and public speaking, those two things, whether you're an employee, whether you're a business owner, whether you are leading a team, whether you are on the team, those are two things I would tell you above all else, all other skills, get as comfortable as you can with networking and public speaking. We're all salesmen for any business we work for. You got to be able to sell those budgets. You got to be able to sell those employees. You got to be able to get people to get on your side. Mm-hmm. Those two skills you really need no matter what you do, and to be knowledgeable. Every student, I would say, if you ever go to an interview, go to that company's website and know that company inside and out as much as possible before you interview. Because if somebody comes to interview with me and they haven't taken the time to know what I do, and yet they're asking me for a job, I'm probably not going to call them back.
It's fantastic advice.
So be knowledgeable. If you're going to an event, to know something about that organization. If you're going to a group of CPAs, look up the CPA group and find out what they support, to be at least a little knowledgeable.
Wow, Diane, Mark,
I wanted to ask just one quick question to Diane, and I wanted to ask Diane, because this I think fits students and entrepreneurs as well. Would you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert? Because I understand that many people have a few little issues with this, and so what would you consider yourself, and how do you overcome this if you're an introvert?
I'm probably definitely an extrovert. I have friends, and I've had employees who are introverts. I try to encourage them by having them go with me to an event, and I make the introductions. Mm-hmm. Introverts are going to struggle. It's going to be harder for them, just because. But if you can help them get some self-confidence, teach them the benefits of networking, then I think it becomes easier.
Yeah, and I looked up some statistics from Myers and Briggs, who did a study on this, and they said 50.7% of people were extroverts, they were extroverts, and then 50.7 were introverts, and 49.3% of people were extroverts. So it was almost 50-50, but just little difference here and there.
I like that, Mark, because the Myers and Briggs is a lot different than the Briggs and Myers test. The Briggs and Myers test, that 100% of people work on lawnmower engines. Right? So if you were looking at me, Diane, am I an introvert or an extrovert?
I think you're an extrovert, unless you're an introvert who's working really hard at it.
This is exhausting. My life is exhausting. I love my family. I love to be. COVID has been great. I haven't really had to talk to anybody. And that's the thing. It's about learning to what? You said it. You said it earlier. Learning to what? Come out of your shell.
Come out of the comfort zone.
Right. And it's been hard because I'm a really cool not talking to people. So, Mark, Stephanie, I want to thank y'all so much for leading this discussion. Right now, though, We have some questions for you, Diane. You ready?
Ready?
How are internships going to help us? And that was from somebody up there.
Miranda Valencia.
Yes, thank you, Miranda. I saw it. I'm like, I just lost it. So Miranda wants to know how is this going to help us?
Well, there's a number of ways. Internships are a way to figure out, if you go to work for somebody and figure out this is an industry I like or dislike. This is the kind of boss I like or dislike. This is the kind of work I can see myself doing in the future or not. It's training ground. If you're at ground zero of, I don't know what I want to do, an internship is the best thing you can do. Where else will you know?
I like that. So just explore it. Don't stay with vanilla ice cream. Try all the flavors, even though vanilla is the best. Okay. So another question was asked is one of my biggest challenges have been able to find the right people. We go to find the correct, maybe not correct, but where do we go to find the networking groups that will help us excel in life?
Well, I think much like what I did, I reached out and tried several. You find what fits you best, schedule, personality, what they do. For example, I loved Rotary. I was in Rotary and I loved Rotary and I loved the premise. I still support Rotary, but I haven't kept my membership because they had weekly meetings. It was too much for me to do. But that doesn't mean I don't still support the group, right?
So you're saying expectations, realize I can only do so much. I only have 168 hours a day, and make sure you keep the connections with your family because it'd be horrible to lose that networking, right?
Right. Yeah. Now that's where you got to set the priorities. I mean, that's in any life. You've got to set priorities. You've got to draw the lines. I will tell you, I'm the kind of person that has drawn my lines very clearly. I do not work when I go home. When I leave the office, clients do not call me at home. When I'm on, I'm on, and when I'm off, I'm off.
That's a great work-life balance. You know what, Diane, I thank you so much for being here. The American, I just woo, American Businesswoman of the Year. You are it. I can't. Me and you need to talk one of these days. I need to network. You can bring me donuts, by the way. I'll put my address in the chat box. But we need to go back to where it all began. So thank you, Diane. Kyle, Crystal, help us understand what we just heard for the last 45 minutes.
Wow, go for it, Kyle. I've got a question coming in for Perkins, Gabrielle. I'm going to respond to that. Please kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. Diane, thank you so much. You're an inspiration to everyone. I mean, your story is incredible. I mean, just to give us that motivation that we all need and to understand that networking is there in front of us, and we just need to attack it and have that grittiness attitude and being sincere with effective listening and develop patience. And that's exactly what I got out of it as well. And so leading with respect, Diane, I mean, thank you so much. We really are happy to hear your story.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Diane. My key takeaways were be genuinely curious. One of the things I started in sales and I closed $150,000 in sales with no Rolodex, never doing anything in sales before. And that was all because I went to these networking groups and I just didn't pitch. I didn't try anything. I just listened. I said, so tell me, what do you do? People love to talk about themselves. And so, that's something, I really want to highlight that worked for me and that you really shared is just really get people to open up about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. If you're genuinely curious without a prerogative, like you said, not trying to close something, but just focus on learning about them, identifying common interests for that opening, understand how to simply say what you do, but bring it back to them and schedule that follow-up time where, if you are a salesperson, you can have, see if you can help them, but be creative in building those relationships and be genuine and really get them to open up. So it sounds like this is something you've done from the very beginning. I know Gabrielle said, what if you're an extrovert and an introvert? How do you show up on both sides of networking? And this one I want to kind of speak to, and please chime in on this, Diane. For me, I'm actually an ambivert. I don't know if anybody else is an ambivert here, but believe it or not, when the world is crashing down, I need to be alone. to sort it all out. And that, by definition of the Myers-Briggs test, makes me an introvert, which I find very fascinating because I'm dynamic, I'm in your face, but I'm actually an introvert. So in fact, I'm an ambivert. So with that, the way I show up in networking being an ambivert is, again, exactly what I just said, genuinely listening, getting other people to talk. I use my extrovertedness to walk up and say hello and take a deep breath and get somebody talking, but I use the introvert to listen and make it about them and not about me. What would you say to somebody who's both introvert and extrovert coming into networking?
Well, again, I think that you draw your lines of, if you're an introvert who needs alone time, well, you certainly don't want to commit to 4 networking evenings in a week because that's going to overwhelm you, burn you out, things like that. So there's this work balance that I think you have to think about. If your way of winding down at the end of every week is Friday evening, I have a glass of wine and sit on my patio for 2 hours, then you should do that. Don't plan a networking event that night. Draw your lines of what can make you happy, and yet you can do your networking. You don't want to go into the shell altogether, but at the same time, you don't want to commit to so many social and networking events that you burn out and feel like, I just hate doing this. It's kind of like going to the job every day for 7 days a week is going to burn you out eventually. You can still love what you're doing, but you just can't do it forever.
Yeah, and in World War I, they actually put the horses to a 7-day work week and they started to die.
Yeah.
And so that's a real analogy, but a literal translation. We got to give ourselves time to rest. And Friday night is movie night in my household. I don't go to networking events on Friday. I get it.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you, Diane. I know we're about to run out of time. I want us to land this plane. I know I had everybody kick us off with our score to start. Dr. D, can you put that slide up there with the results for the score? If you rated yourself a 1, for example, on the first question, you feel confident in your professional networking abilities, and you let's say rated yourself a 2 on comfortable creating a simple introduction to explain who you are, that would be 3 points. So again, take the number that you rated from 1 to 5 and add it up for those 4 questions. Go ahead and do that right now, and we're going to go ahead and talk about what your results mean. Kyle, kick us off here.
Yeah, y'all, we're definitely establishing that baseline is important and understanding kind of where to lift off and what areas of networking you need to really improve. And so this score is going to help you understand that and where you need to create that resiliency to develop that thick skin so you can have that grittiness attitude that Diane's talking about. And finding that passion that just really drives you to success.
Absolutely. So if you're a 4 to 9, just know there's nothing wrong with you. It just means you need to be really proactive about this. You need to practice looking in the mirror and saying, hi, I'm Crystal Lindsay. What do you do? What brings you here? Tell me about yourself. Or see, Diane shared before, you see somebody on their phone, it's a screensaver with their kids, you jump in on that. Oh, do you have kids? Tell me about that. Or they're wearing an Aggie shirt. Oh, do you go to Aggies? Oh, your child does. Tell me, what does she study? Practicing those talking points is going to be key to get people to talk. I would also, if you're 4 to 9, I'm going to encourage you to Google active listening. This is a real thing, and I learned it when I worked in financial aid of all places. But you summarize the emotion that somebody has shared with you, and 2, then summarize what they say. So, wow, it sounds like you're really passionate about being an Aggie mom, for example, would be active listening, right? So be really, really intentional with that. Dr. D, take it. What do you got?
No, think about it. We had a workshop with this 2 months ago. Matter of fact, you can find our YouTube page and you can watch the previous episodes of this. I feel like we're in episode 3. Episode 1, intentional listening. Episode 2, personal branding. Episode 3, networking. Y'all, go back and watch these. And Donald Jaworski gives us some great ideas for intentional listening.
Yes.
And back to you.
100%. And if you're 10 to 15, you have a lot of the right skills, but to knock it out of the park, but you also need to go back to see Donald Joukowsky and see how, he talks about active listening. Take the time to get the skills. Know there's an area of opportunity and push yourself to go further. And Kyle, what about those people who just feel like a pro? What are we going to say to them?
Yeah, for sure. If you're that 15 to 20 range, definitely like Diane. I mean, a networking professional. I mean, you've really got to fine tune your skill into actively growing and just giving back, so much like Diane exemplified through her journey.
Absolutely. Take time to embrace it and give to others. So share it out. I want to see in the comments here. Was this a surprise for you? Was anybody surprised by their score, or what are you going to do with your score, with your information? While you're chatting that out, I just want to say, just know the whole point of this is to get connected. Whether or not this is one-on-one or one-to-many, your networking is going to help you elevate your business by getting key contacts in your network, right? So take the time to get connected, recognize what's holding you back, and realize if you feel unsure about meeting people, that's something you need to practice and work through. It's hard to drive a car the first time, but it gets easy when you know what to do. So make sure you go to events, introduce yourself, and don't worry about if you're going to freeze. At the end of the day, just put it back on them and say, well, tell me, what do you like to do? How do you spend your free time? I tell you, that's one of my favorite networking questions. You go to a networking event, they expect you to talk business, and you look at them, you say, what do you like to do for fun? And they go, what? Do you have any fun? My new phrase, do you have any fun COVID hobbies? COVID hobbies? Are you painting or gardening or you say, well, actually, I'm spending time with my kids, and you get on a real level. So again, just know you're not alone. Don't worry about it. Just learn how to get people to talk about themselves, and you can learn to network and give your career the huge boost using networking. So thank you so much. I want to see, I don't see anybody who's commented out their scores yet, but Kyle, what do you say? How can we help them take action for their future as we're signing off here? What's our call to action here?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's just understanding that you're not alone in this position, that you have support around you, and it's just reaching out to others to genuinely help you to understand how to go out and talk with people and meet with other people. So using your web of connections, talking to your friends, talking to your family. How many of the people that your friends and family knows, and how many people those people know? I mean, web of connections just keeps growing, and understanding that you're not alone, and you can definitely reach the people or the industry that you want to be in.
Absolutely. So here's my request for y'all, okay? I want you to write down right now. I'm gonna put on my serious face. I want you to write down, how can you meet people to land that new job? Are you gonna sit down for a one-to-one with your professor? Or are you going to go on LinkedIn and find somebody in your ideal job and ask them for a 5-minute informational interview? Or what are you going to do to be able to get in front of the people who are going to help you land that new job? Or how are you going to make the contacts grow your business? If you're a business person, do you have somebody out there who's going to be able to make the product, to do the product launch? Or are you going to talk to somebody who'd be a strategic partner and refer you business? Or, what are you going to do? What organizations are you going to join? How are you going to volunteer your time? What can you do to get in front of those contacts? Or how can you climb the ladder, the company ladder, to make it faster and easier? Are you going to, do something nice? Bring donuts to the office, whatever that equivalent is. I did painted pumpkins for Thanksgiving, right? Are you going to paint some pumpkins? What are you going to do for Christmas? This is a huge opportunity to do something nice for the people in your office or in your classrooms, for your teachers, to be memorable. And what are you going to do to connect with movers and shakers? And what should we do for somebody out there who's looking for an opportunity to volunteer or intern? Kyle, what's our final call to action here as we land this plane?
Definitely, like, you got to be creative to build those relationships, and that's volunteering, and be in those industries and proximity, those places where the people you want to be with. Why not broaden your horizon? Why not make it bigger? Take an effort to be unique and step out of your comfort zone. What you put in is what you get out. If you keep doing what you've been doing, you'll reap the results you've been receiving. So definitely take the time, take the effort. It's in you. I know it. You got this.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for everything you do. I'm going to let Dr. D wrap us up with our final little housekeeping. He has been the host with the most, and we are thrilled that you are here. Again, join us in January for 100 jobs. We had from our surveys a special request to learn how to help you figure out your ideal career. So stay tuned. January is a very special episode for 100 jobs. So Dr. D, bring us
100 jobs. I love that. You know what? Who won the tamales? That's all I want to know. Who won them? You know what? That's a great question. And I'm going to work with Rosie and we're going to get the winners notified, all 5 of y'all, so you can get your tamales on. 100 jobs is going to be awesome. And it's going to be in January. The other thing we need to think about is, do your survey. Help us help you, because these are some great things. As you notice right there, Crystal put on there the resources. If you can't find the resources, let us know. Contact us and we can send you those resources.
Dr. D, I think one thing, we need to throw some resources to let everybody know that UHV is here to support them. And so, Stephanie, can I bring you back online? I got a question for you. So, Stephanie, are there any good networking opportunities happening with career services?
Well, since you asked, actually there are. At Career Services, we will be hosting a virtual education job fair. It's a great way for future students to get to meet with various school districts, get your name out there, have them know you.
So what about the students who are not education majors?
That's a great question. So UHV students and alumni also get access to many virtual events and webinars through Handshake.
Students, take advantage of the Handshake platform. It only takes a few minutes, but once personalized, the results are tailored to meet your personal interest.
Absolutely. And you have access to webinars and events hosted by Goldman Sachs. And if you are in STEM, you can actually also access internship and fellowship opportunities through ORISE.
Also, I got to add, your resume and cover letters, they need to be top notch, and they can be sent to Career Services for their review, so you can be confident with your brilliant smile for your next interview.
Absolutely. Send those on over. I will link Handshake in the chat. And also for those students that mentioned that they want to join organizations, please contact Student Life. You have tons of access to organizations at the university and outside of it.
Dr. D.
You know what? I was just thinking, that made me think. One of the things I found out that I loved about being here is whenever I applied for UHV Destination Campus, actually, when I was interviewing, I realized that I had been on a panel with one of the people who was here, and we had spent a weekend together in this conference, and we had talked, and it's like, wow, we met 3-4 years ago. She's like, oh yeah, and that's what's so great. Like I said, we have learned so many things this fall semester, how to listen intentionally, how to brand ourselves, and now with networking, y'all, these are the things you can do. Go to your professors. They know people. And if they don't know people, we'll make people up. Not really. We're going to help you find those people because we want you to succeed. So, hey, I want to thank you. I want to thank you whole bunches for being here. So, hey, no questions, no comments, no concerns. If you do, send them to us. Otherwise, love you, bye. Have a great one. Thanks for coming to Bridge for Brilliance. See everybody in January.
And we'll be